Welcome back to the Magnum Rewatch podcast. My name is Graham.
And I'm Kathleen.
We are from LoadingReadyRun.com, purveyors of fine internet humor.
Well, purveyors of
Artisanal internet humor.
organic, locally sourced 100-mile internet
100-mile
humor.
internet humor. I knew you were going to say 100 mile.
That's the buzzword here on the West Coast.
It sure is. We're from Canada. In addition to finding this podcast on LoadingReadyRun.com, or perhaps you're subscribed through iTunes or an RSS feed into whatever reader of your choice you prefer, this one and all of the ones previously and all the ones going forward will be available as well on our YouTube channel.
YouTube!
In that sort of way that sometimes people do podcasts where it's just like the album art over the sound. Because this wouldn't work as a video podcast because we edit it too tightly. I say we. Kathleen edits it very tightly.
Yeah. I want it to sound perfect. Somebody was telling me that they have a podcasting app that automatically cuts out dead air. And I was like, what? No, why would you just not cut that out in the editing process? I want to deliver a professional product here. You're telling me some podcasters aren't as dedicated to this as I am? Scrubs. Anyhow.
That decision, by the way, Kathleen, in case you weren't aware, we did an informal Twitter poll and asked people if they would like to see our podcasts that don't already have videos, which is Magnum Rewatch, this one, and Fight the Future with Dan and Paul, if they would like to see those in that form on YouTube, if that would be more convenient for people. And the overwhelming response was either, this doesn't affect me in any way, or yes, that would be better. So
I guess now they're on YouTube.
Kind of a no-brainer, really.
Well, that's your job, so it doesn't make...
I'll take care of it.
Doesn't make my life more difficult, so sure, let's do that.
Sounds good.
Less work for... No more work for me. The same amount of work for me.
Exactly. This affects you in no great way.
Yeah, I'm in the first group on that informal survey.
Today's episode 14, is named Adelaide, and it's not amazing. I think I want to say that right away.
Yeah, this might be the worst episode so far.
Because there are structural issues that I don't know will necessarily be apparent by how we just sort of describe the plot, but we'll see.
I mean, like other episodes I have complained about, like I complained about The Ugliest Dog in Hawaii because I thought the acting was like groan-worthy and there's a lot of scenery chewing and, you know, Magnum acts stupid in some episodes and I don't like it when he acts dumb because otherwise he's very smart and very good at reading people. However, this episode has sort of the Magnum acts dumb and compounded flaws from what seems to be sort of a hastily written script.
I would agree with that. We open on a volleyball game, beach volleyball game, with Magnum and TC versus two people that we don't know or care about.
Yeah, we don't even really see them.
No. At the King Kamehameha Club, which apparently has a beach volleyball court.
I mean, why wouldn't it? It's on the beach.
Higgins is presiding as referee, I guess.
For some reason.
With his jacket and strange ribbon.
I mean, he probably wears the ribbon just because he likes it.
And we're about to see match point for what is a late game in the qualifiers, clearly. This is not the finals, but it's late in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. And just as Magnum is about to make the serve, Higgins blows the whistle to come over and talk to him.
And why does he do that?
Well, because Higgins doesn't want Magnum to win this beach volleyball tournament, and Magnum is good at beach volleyball, and Magnum and TC as a pair are extremely good at beach volleyball. And if Magnum and TC's team wins, that means a guest of the King Kamehameha Club will be representing the King Kamehameha Club. And to add insult to injury, his partner is also a guest. So it's a guest of a guest. It's like they brought in a ringer, or some ringers, I guess. 2 ringers.
And so he indicates how embarrassing this could be for the club.
As Magnum is trying to make the match point to win the game.
Yeah.
Grr. This is a dirty tactic.
As it happens, he gets flustered and misses the point.
Higgins, you jerk.
I don't actually know what purpose this scene serves, to be perfectly frank.
I feel like it's set up because then after he's sort of done this volleyball thing and he's having a shower, which I believe this is just an excuse for us to see Tom Selleck without a shirt on, all like soaking wet.
Which is fine.
I mean, you have to remember, straight women, gay men loved this show because they wanted to look at Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck, very hot, very macho, just the right amount of chest hair. I think it's just to give an excuse for that.
I guess they could have started it there and just not had that weird scene.
But then they don't have the setup. They don't have the setup for why he would be taking a shower.
Who cares?
Well, they don't have the setup of Higgins being a jerk.
Yeah, there's precedent, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I mean, I'm fine with if we just skip that first 2 minutes and just did a longer shower scene.
There we go.
Ratings.
Magnum is interrupted in his shower. By the way, when we say he's having a shower, he's not like in a bathroom somewhere. This is like the beachfront shower at the King K Club.
Yeah, like the shower you'd like have after you come out of the water or something like that to get the salt water off you.
Yeah. And there's a woman there looking for him because she has a job. And for some reason, Higgins and Rick and TC are all there as well. And she's sort of like, oh, I didn't know you had staff. Oh no, this is going to be way too expensive. I only have $350.
Yeah, this woman is extremely strange.
Her name is Adelaide, as is the episode. Perhaps describe Adelaide.
She's a school teacher from Iowa, and she wears big Coke bottle glasses because that's how you show a person is nerdy. And I looked up a picture of the actress, and the actress is actually quite lovely and striking, but she is styled excessively dowdily here.
The actress, by the way, is Christine Belford, probably known better for other roles. Like I say, every episode, it seems like many people in the show, she's a working actor. She's been in tons of different things and sort of mini recurring roles. She was Evelyn Stratton on Silver Spoons. She was Maggie Randall in Outlaws. She was, more recently, in the mid-late 90s, Samantha Sanders on Beverly Hills 90210. Not much since 1999.
I mean, she's getting on in years, though. She might be retired.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, it's really hard to describe how they've written this character, and I do not say this from a place of cruelty. This is me observing it. I would say she falls somewhere on the autism spectrum. Is not played for laughs, but she's very blunt, but not in a rude way. She just is not super aware of like social niceties, I guess is a good way of putting it. But this is not portrayed as a character flaw, so I'll give actual credit to the Magnum team, although perhaps this is after credit. Maybe she was played as a weirder character then, but she's not necessarily played as a bad person or a strange person. She's just a unique lady.
I do find it interesting from a writing perspective that the episode employs what I'm going to call the Lisa in a red dress mode of character description, where Magnum routinely refers to her beautiful smile without her necessarily having one.
Yeah.
I'm referring to The Room, where everyone says that Lisa is so beautiful, and you're told repeatedly that Lisa is so beautiful and looks so great in a red dress. This is the Tommy Wiseau disaster movie, The Room.
And it's not that the lady who is playing Lisa is
unattractive, but it's like,
why is every time we describe Lisa, why is it she's so beautiful, or she looks so beautiful in that red dress? It's like, does she not have other character traits?
Well, the point is that to hit the audience over the head, it's like, this character is beautiful, this character is beautiful, this character is beautiful, when maybe the actress isn't living up to the standards that the script intended.
Well, I feel in his mind, Tommy Wiseau was casting like Cindy Crawford, and he got a perfectly serviceable and attractive actress, but she's not Cindy Crawford, right?
Yeah. I just think it's weird that Magnum seems so taken with Adelaide when there was literal Miss Hawaii in the episodes.
Yeah.
2 episodes back, and he was like, yeah, that's cool.
Maybe Magnum has a soft spot for unusual women. Maybe the more unique the circumstances that he meets them in, the better. The more helpless, the more he can like swoop in and be a knight in shining armor, the more attractive he might find them.
She manages to get him on side, by the way, by mentioning her uncle, Captain Charles Cathart, who Magnum remembers from his time in Vietnam as a surgeon, actually. Dr. Cathart, I guess. He was also a captain. Dr. Captain. Captain Doctor.
Dr. Captain Major Surgeon.
Dr. Captain Major Surgeon Cathart, who it is implied saved Magnum's life, or at least made him not die so badly.
Well, I mean, surgery-wise, life-saving.
And so he's like, all right, I'll help you out. What's wrong? And she says that men have threatened to kill Norman repeatedly. She's gotten all these phone calls about it. Police won't do anything. Other PIs won't take her case, and her uncle doesn't seem to care. So Magnum's like, all right, I'll help out. And there's this nice little transition. I quite like this, actually. We cut to TC's helicopter, them flying to where Adelaide lives, and Magnum's doing some narration, explaining the setup, saying he sort of would like to see Captain Cathart again, and that he may as well do a solid to Adelaide, or as he calls her in the narration, Ms. Malone. And then we cut to real dialogue of her saying, no, please call me Adelaide, which I just liked that sort of transition from the narration to the actual dialogue.
That was good. I like that her name is Adelaide Malone, too. That's such a 1930s name.
So did you want to talk about why they're having to fly for so long?
Yeah. So as it turns out, and then I feel that a lot of people will know this, so I won't go into excruciating detail here, but Hawaii is, of course, a chain of islands. It's actually a chain of 8 islands. And Oahu, which is the island that Magnum lives on and Robin's Nest is on and Honolulu is on and is actually the most populated island in Hawaii, is not, in fact, the largest island in Hawaii. It's actually the 3rd largest island. The biggest island in Hawaii is, in fact, the island of Hawaii. And it's usually called the Big Island because, it's confusing that one of the islands shares the same name as the state. So Hawaii, the island proper, is more of like a rural tourist destination. There's still I think almost 200,000 people that live there, but it's not nearly as populated as Oahu. And it's clear that Captain Cathart owns a horse ranch on Hawaii, and that's where he lives out there. And they do a lot of farming there. There's cattle there and stuff like that. It's definitely where the more agricultural pursuits happen.
They land on Hawaii, and TC takes off again, and they go over to Captain Cathart's ranch where Adelaide lives. Magnum introduces himself again. He recognizes him, obviously, but Magnum's like, "Hello, sir, good to see you again," reaches out his hand. Captain Cathart doesn't shake it because there's something wrong with his hand. I believe it's implied that he's actually lost his hand. He has a rubber appendage.
Or there's some sort of horrible scarring or something like that.
Some reason that he wasn't able to continue his military career, which becomes relevant because he does not like Magnum. This is explained very bluntly. He doesn't like Magnum anymore because Magnum did his time and then left the Navy because he felt like he'd done his service and wanted to live his own life. And this guy's upset because he had his career cut short and Magnum could have had a long and illustrious military career, and this guy feels that Magnum squandered that, and that it's that trope, basically.
Yeah. I hate you because you threw away what I could never have had.
Exactly. Didn't that sort of happen in the first episode?
Yeah.
That the guy that was in charge of the naval base didn't like Magnum because
Magnum was a high achiever, but then threw his career away by wanting to do his own thing.
What does Magnum say in response to that? Captain Cathart says, you threw your career away, and Magnum says,
he says, I resigned.
Right.
I did my time and I resigned.
He's like, no, I didn't. I had my career, and now I have a different career. Oh, you're a PI. Investigator.
Yeah.
The constant correction of that. I want to talk briefly about Captain Cathart, played by Cameron Mitchell. Long career, Cameron Mitchell. Goodness me.
Wow, I'm looking at you scroll through his IMDb listing.
His first acting role on IMDb is 1945.
Wow.
He had a long history of playing cowboys.
And he's kind of playing a cowboy here, too. So
Kinda, yeah.
It works.
Really well known for it. He's been in, goodness me, tons and tons and tons of stuff. His first appearance in a series in Hawaii was in 1962, the TV series The Beachcomber, where he played the main character and narrator of The Beachcomber for the entire first season of 39 episodes.
I feel that we need to point out that is different than The Beachcomber's beloved CBC show about old Canadians also on a beach.
Most of our listeners probably won't be familiar with The Beachcombers.
They're probably not familiar with either beachcomb-based series.
Probably not. He also played Buck Cannon in 97 episodes of The High Chaparral? Chaparral?
How do you spell it?
Chaparral.
Chaparral.
It's a ranch in Arizona Territory in the 1870s. So, yeah.
The High Chapass.
That ran from 1967 to 1971.
The High Chalupa. The High Chimichanga.
He was Jeremiah Worth in The Swiss Family Robinson in the late 70s. And then he sort of settled into the same kind of guest starring on all the period shows that everyone else who guest stars on Magnum did as well, but kept doing movies. Notably for me, where I recognize him from, because I recognized him, but I couldn't place him, because in Magnum, he is clean-shaven, and the role that I recognize him from, he has a big, fluffy white beard, because I know him as Commander Alex Jansen from the movie Space Mutiny, one of my favorite episodes of Mystery Science Theater ever, where he plays Space Captain Santa Claus. For MST3K fans, this is the episode with Rick Hard Slab, Stud Beef Pile.
Oh my God.
Dash
that's
Rip Rock.
That is, if you haven't seen it, it is one of the best episodes of
and the
MST3K
captain looks like Santa.
Ever.
He wears a muumuu and has a big white beard. Anyway,
Wow.
This is the captain from Space Mutiny.
I feel like we and our listeners are in a unique position of recognizing this man most from Space Mutiny.
It's probably really upsetting for him.
Is he still alive?
No, he died in 1994.
Okay.
At age 75.
So it's probably not upsetting him anymore.
Probably not. After a long and illustrious career. And the picture on his IMDb page is a very, very young Cameron Mitchell looking swarthy and cowboyish. Let us remember him as that and not as Captain Santa. Captain Cathart, however, his character in this episode, thinks that the threats against Norman are bull hunky and people don't need to worry about it and Magnum can just leave.
Magnum's like, well, no, I came all this way.
And TC's flown home, so may as well check it out. All right, Adelaide, where's Norman? She leads him around to the stables, and Magnum goes through the same line of mental questioning that we're going through. Where
I actually assumed he would be a horse immediately.
Yeah, he's a horse.
But
Magnum goes, does he live around the back? Oh, does he work in the stables? Does he live in the stables? He's a horse.
Now, the thing is, this is not just any old horse. Turns out Norman is a show jumping horse.
He is.
And if you know anything about show jumping or the equestrian events at the Olympics, that is a big deal. It is very popular, and top show jumping horses can be worth a fair bit of money. And in fact, Norman is worth a fair bit of money. If Norman completes his season well, they have an offer to sell him for $250,000 for breeding stock because he obviously has a good combination of traits that make him a good show jumping horse.
And Adelaide is sure that he is going to win this last thing of the season, and then they'll be able to sell him. And Magnum is more annoyed than I would expect that Adelaide brought him out here to protect a horse.
He's protected a mutt before. This is actually a thoroughbred.
I know. This actually becomes a recurring thing through the episode, is people laughing their ass off at Magnum for guarding a horse. And it's like, what?
He's a thoroughbred.
That's not that weird.
They're worth a lot of money.
Was this not a thing in the 80s? I don't know.
Yeah, like this is $250,1981. That's like the basic rule of thumb that I've learned from doing these calculations is it's about, multiplied by 3. This horse is worth, $750,000 today. That's not nothing. Maybe somebody who was around in the 80s can weigh on this. Maybe there's just a greater acknowledgement now due to sort of ease of access to information. We'll say through Wikipedia and the internet and sort of, just knowledge in general being expanded, that really good horses can be worth big bucks. Like, maybe that just wasn't common knowledge back then, right?
Yeah. The tournament that Norman will be participating in is the first annual International Hawaiian Show Jumping.
No, it's the Hawaii International Horse Show.
Okay.
And it's the first annual, taking place in 1981. And I hate to break this to you, Graham, that's not a real thing.
Oh.
However, I did look this up. There is no Hawaii International Horse Show, but there is the Hawaii Horse Show Association, or the HHSA, according to their website. And it was founded in 1960 to serve all Hawaii residents who shared the common bond of a love of horses. The show offered divisions in the hunter seat and stock seat categories for hunters, jumpers, dressages, western pleasure, trail riding, and stock horses.
Do like Western pleasure.
Yeah, by 1974, this was a full 6 days of competition. So there you go.
See, I figured it was BS because the idea of having an international horse show in Hawaii seemed ludicrous to me when I don't think horses fit on planes very well.
I think you can get a horse on a plane. Like they have horses coming all around the world for for the
Olympics.
Derby, the Olympics.
But in 1980, for just like a rando show, you'd have to put him on a boat. It would take months.
That's true.
So Magnum realizes TC's gone. Magnum can't get the next ferry, so he'll just stay overnight and he'll
guard Norman.
He'll guard Norman and whatever. Sure, he'll sleep in the barn. Why not? Adelaide comes out with
two sleeping bags
and pillows and stuff, and there's a cot out there where she typically sleeps, and Magnum can sleep on the hay bales over there, right?
I guess hay is soft. Now, here's the thing, though. I found that if I had invited somebody out to watch my horse, I'd let them have the cot, and I'd sleep on the hay.
Yeah.
That's just good manners. Now, the only other thing I'll say about the sleeping bags is they open up the sleeping bag, and it's got a pattern that's very suspiciously familiar to me. It appears to be the exact same pattern that is in the ancient sleeping bag that we have at our house, that I think was passed down to you by your father and perhaps his father before him.
Maybe he got it in Hawaii. Who knows?
Well, I think maybe that's just what sleeping bags look like. It has like this little like outdoorsy camping theme, like repeated in...
It has a motif.
Yeah, it has it, but like, what's that type of fabric that has like the repeated like outdoorsy scenes? Toile?
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like outdoorsy toile.
We do get a scene before they turn in of Adelaide opening up a little bit.
In her strange, awkward, kind of robotic way.
Yeah, that she's like, she wants to make sure that Magnum doesn't think that she used her, and I'm quoting here, feminine wiles to entice Magnum to come and guard the horse, even though she did mention it was a horse. She just wants to make sure that, because she wasn't trying to do that, and she doesn't want him to think that she was, because she's not that kind of girl, and it's so uncomfortable.
Oh, I think things like this all the time in my head, but I don't go and let them out of my mouth.
And then she crosses her arms like a mummy and lays back on the open sleeping bag like a friggin' clone.
Now, here's the deal, though. That I have to say it's okay to do the crossed arms, because I cross my arms like a vampire when I sleep. Maybe I'm just a vampire, though. Anyhow, the night passes uneventfully.
We do find out from their discussion, though, that they've been using steroids on Norman. And she says this in the middle of a sentence of other things.
And Magnum doesn't bat an eye either.
Yeah, and Kathleen and I are like, wait, what? Are you allowed to give horses steroids?
Well, I guess, don't bodybuilders abuse horse steroids?
So I guess there's steroids for horses. But are they allowed for competition? Is that okay?
Well, turns out, no. But maybe back in 1980. Here's what I was able to find. So, as it turns out, there is a long history of doping horses. Okay.
Horses are pretty dopey on their own.
Yeah. Let me first talk about exactly what a steroid is.
Let me just gloss over that joke, Graham.
So steroids are organic compounds. And basically, you think steroids, oh my God, those are so bad for you, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of different kinds of steroids. In fact, did you know cholesterol is a steroid, Graham?
I did not know that, actually.
It is an essential building block of the walls of cells. And, when you get a corticosteroid, that is a different type of steroid that reduces inflammation.
So what you're saying is I should just get a lot of cholesterol and get swole.
No, that is not the kind of steroid that will make you
inject
swole.
Cholesterol into my butt.
Anyhow, not all. I preface this by saying not all steroids are bad, and not all steroids will make you big and burly and give you roid rage. The kind of steroids that we're talking about are, in fact, anabolic steroids.
Are those the ones I take to get roid rage?
Yes.
Which ones give me roid rage specifically?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of bad side effects from taking too many
I have
anabolic
my whole
steroids.
Sunday booked off for some roid rage.
Well, hey, do you want a list of all of the bad things that can happen if you abuse steroids?
Oh, I don't know if we have time, but go for it.
Steroids, you think, well, they just promote muscle mass and growth, and they stimulate your appetite, so they're good. And in some cases, it actually can be good to use anabolic steroids. Because if you have, say, HIV or you have cancer or any other kind of wasting disease, they can help you get healthy again. However, that's medically supervised and all of that stuff, right? You should not just be doping steroids because they have a huge variety of bad side effects, such as affective mood disorders are a complication of steroids. This is your roid rage, Graham. Case reports include hypomania and mania, irritability, elation, recklessness, racing thoughts, feelings of power and invincibility, or just general mood disturbances, which I don't know what that is. Maybe you just feel kind of testy.
The iron rain of general mood disturbances was brutal.
A 2006 study of two pairs of identical twins in which one twin used anabolic steroids and the other did not found that in both cases, the steroid-using twin exhibited high levels of aggressiveness, hostility, anxiety, and paranoid ideation not found in the control twin.
Yeah, but those legs, though.
I mean, yeah, they were just shredded. We were joking, but don't use steroids because it gets worse. There is a relationship between anabolic steroid use and depression and suicide. It's not super well documented, but they've definitely done studies into it. There's physiological side effects, as if all of those mental side effects weren't bad enough. If you take steroids too young, as a lot of high school athletes are sort of tempted to do, it can prematurely stop the lengthening of your bones, resulted in stunting growth. Too many steroids are possibly carcinogenic to humans, so they could cause you cancer.
Holy crap.
Other side effects can include enlargement and thickening of the left ventricle of the heart, cardiac arrhythmias, congestive heart failures, heart attacks, sudden cardiac death. You've probably heard about people who abuse steroids too often and they just have a heart attack. That is a very real risk. They can cause gynomastia in men.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
Do you remember Fight Club?
Yeah.
You remember Bob?
Yep.
Bob was taking steroids for cancer?
Yep.
And they gave him bitch tits. That's not me being hurtful. That's the description from Fight Club. They can give you kidney problems, they can give you liver problems. No. In addition, they've got more side effects, and I'll talk about them later. But there's a lot of side effects to taking steroids. It sounds tempting, but don't do it. They're so bad for you. I mean, obviously, there are some cases where you might want to take steroids, but, if you have cancer, So only do so under the direction of a doctor.
We're going to start a new podcast where every week we talk about a different side effect of taking steroids.
There's enough for at least 20 episodes.
What about horse steroids specifically?
I was so caught up in all the side effects of anabolic steroids. I forgot that we were talking about horses. Okay. So in horse sports, anabolic steroids were banned from horse racing in 2008 and 2009.
2008?
2008 they banned this.
What?
Yeah, it seems really like...
That's awful recent.
That's what I thought. I was like, this is suspiciously recent to me. However, occasionally you still get positive drug tests. They do drug test horses for steroids for obvious reasons.
That's so much pee.
Oh, yuck. You want to be a horse pee collector?
No.
That sounds awful. However, they're talking about equestrian sports, show jumping here, because Norman is a show jumper. He's not a racehorse. And so obviously, do you want to use steroids on a show jumper? Well, I mean, they still have to be able to jump really high and stuff like that. However, equestrian sports are one of the druggiest Olympic sports. Not necessarily for steroids. This is just related interesting things. The IOC cracked down on horse doping prior to the 2008 Olympic Games. Horse doping is not necessarily giving your horse performance-enhancing drugs. What they're usually doing is giving your horses drugs like capsaicin.
Wait, what?
Rubbed on as a cream. It serves as a pain reliever. And
capsaicin is in like pepper spray.
Yeah, but if you rub it on as a cream to your horse, it relieves the sensitivity in their legs, and they're less scared of hitting them because it hurts when they hit those rails, right?
Yeah.
And the horses could hesitate or not, and because you're timed, and then you get deductions for hitting the rails.
So you numb their legs with hot pepper.
Yes. Here's some other horse doping cases.
What the F?
In 2004, Sean O'Connor won the gold for Ireland and became a national hero as Ireland's only medalist. And you think, in an equestrian sport, how do you even cheat there? Well, his horse, Waterford Crystal, would later test positive for 2 antipsychotic drugs typically prescribed to humans.
What?
To make the horses more docile.
Holy crap.
They also give horses pain relievers before they go on to show jumping, ketamine and stuff like that, like horse tranquilizers. It's because their muscles hurt and their bones hurt from all this high impact sport.
Surely the interior real estate of a horse is going to run out of room at some point. They're just ballooning these things up with drugs and then being like, all right, I'm going to strap a human to your back and you're going to jump over some shit.
I'm sure that they screen horses for steroids in the Olympics too, but there's lots of ways to dope show jumping horses.
Holy crap.
But that doesn't matter, because this is the 80s. It was a different time. Different time count for this episode 1 so far.
Are any of the side effects random cowboys?
I didn't read every single side effect of anabolic steroids, but
because Magnum wakes up and walks out of the stables and random cowboys.
Oh, right, yeah.
3, I'm not kidding, just ridden off the MGM backlot.
Yeah,
3 cowboys.
Let me just do a quick word search here. In the steroids article.
With black Stetsons and bandanas firing their guns in the air.
I'm not seeing random cowboys come up, so I'm going to say no.
Ride up to Magnum and throw a lasso around him.
It's comical, honestly.
They also pick Adelaide up and ride off into the sunrise with her.
Yeah, she's pissed, though.
It comes out of nowhere and makes no sense, and we're like, what?
And
so Magnum jumps into a Jeep. Captain Cathart runs out. He jumps into the Jeep with Magnum, and they tear off after Adelaide.
After a short distance, Adelaide gets dumped off a horse, and the cowboys ride into the distance.
And the narration, in the narration, Magnum says, I know what you're thinking, because he says that a lot. This is a distraction, because they split up. The rider with Adelaide goes one direction, and the other 2 riders go a different direction. And Magnum's like, I know that they're just using Adelaide as a distraction to take us away from Norman, so they can get back to him, but what was I supposed to do? Just let them kidnap Adelaide?
I mean, that's fair. Adelaide is a person.
So they catch Adelaide, they pick her up, they drive back, they find Norman collapsed in the stables. Norman is dead. No, he's not. He's just tranquilized.
Which is weird.
It was a threat. It was to show that they could, for some reason.
What the F? Well, this is weird.
The whole thing
This
is
whole scene
very
plays out
strange.
weird.
So when I'm talking about the complaints we had at the beginning with the structure of this episode, there are pacing issues. Nothing feels real. Nothing feels like a credible threat because we don't find out enough about the bad guys. So there's only really one option for what could be happening. And it's not like we see it coming a mile away, but it's not like it's what a twist, like in Never Again or Skin Deep. It's not like a really surprising, interesting, earned twist. It's just like,
Well, and what I don't like about this episode is in other episodes, Magnum is like, this is weird. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to do some investigation. I'm going to look into other people, rival trainers, anything, horses that are also doing well. None of this comes up. Magnum's like, okay, right?
It's a whole bunch of nothing happening, really.
Yeah.
Because he showed up, nothing happens.
A weird horse
They spend
scene.
the night. Adelaide gets kidnapped, and then they tranquilize the horse, but the horse is fine, and they don't hear anything else from these guys, and so it's just sort of like, oh, okay, so
why would you do that?
Nothing has progressed.
But he flies back to Oahu, and Adelaide and Captain Cartwright and Norman
take a boat
to Oahu because they need to transport Norman there because that's where the Hawaii horse show is, and they'll be on Oahu in a couple days, or a day or two or something.
Magnum's back at the King K Club talking to Rick and TC to try and convince them to help him. They figure out that indeed he is guarding a horse, and they laugh at him.
Magnum is like, this horse is worth $250,000.
And they keep laughing.
That's a lot of money.
Now, he's not trying to convince them to help him guard the horse.
That's 4 Ferraris and some change.
He's trying to convince them to come to the horse race. Because, of course, Robin Masters has a private box.
That's 100 Ferrari bumpers.
Because, of course, Robin Masters has a private box at the horse race, and Higgins is never going to use it because Higgins hates horse racing, but he loves polo, so he won't be there, so they should come and enjoy the private box. Then Magnum gets laughed at and leaves, and Rick and TC are sitting there, and then Rick's like, oh, man, can you imagine us at the horse races with all those high society women? And
wealthy women?
Interesting.
Yeah, they are slow. They think about it, and they're like, I like sugar mamas, basically, and they are swayed.
We then find ourselves at the racetrack.
The horse area.
Adelaide and Norman are doing some practice. Magnum's looking around. Adelaide gets a phone call from the same people again, who says, now we want $50,000 or you and Norman will never leave the ring alive, or Norman will never leave the ring alive, or whatever it was that they say.
Generic threat.
She gets angry and hangs up immediately, and Magnum's like, next time, could you keep them on the line so we can find out more about them, because they didn't even tell you where to drop the money off.
And she's like, well, I don't have $50,000 anyhow. And Magnum's like, but then I could try to figure out who they were.
Then we cut to that night. Magnum and Adelaide are sitting in the stables of the racetrack.
I have no recollection of the scene because I was cringing too hard.
It's really uncomfortable.
It's so awkward.
Can I read you my favorite line from this scene?
Oh, it'll bring back, I might go into... It might bring me into shock. It's so awful.
Adelaide says, well, you see, I've been saving myself for the right man. Magnum says, well, I think that's just fine. Adelaide says, do you really? Because lately I've been worried that maybe I've been saved too long, like a jar of strawberry preserves.
Your hymen's not going to explode like a jar of strawberry preserves.
On the shelf all winter that just explodes one day, and there you are with jam all over the ceiling and broken glass on the floor.
That is a very descriptive metaphor.
That is...
I guess it's a simile because the word like.
That's graphic.
I mean, what I think this means is that she probably needs a vibrator. And she probably, actually, now that I think about it, if she's into show jumping, probably doesn't need to worry about that whole hymen business anyhow.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, what? Now, anatomy is useful? No.
I like how matter of fact she was at the beginning, because the bit in the helicopter when I said that she's like, don't call me Ms. Malone, call me Adelaide, because Miss Malone makes me sound like a spinster, and I'm only 32, and society says that you should be married by 32, but F society, I'm my own woman and everything. And it's like, oh, okay.
I like that part.
That's pretty cool. But then this the strawberry preserves metaphor is like...
She's just got massive crushes on Magnum.
And then they kiss.
Why?
Magnum's into this.
No, I don't buy that at all.
It's very weird. Do you think it's a
sympathy kiss?
I don't know. The whole scene is like really awkward.
I think it's a sympathy kiss.
And then Magnum's like, yeah, totally. So I looked up the writer and the director because I was like, there's some different creative choices going on here.
Yeah.
The director actually has, apart from Robert Loggia, has directed most of the first season so far.
Okay, so I mean, but sometimes it's not a bad. But there's some good shots in here. You know, sometimes it's not a bad script.
That's cinematography.
Yeah, but like the director is like in charge of telling the camera people what kind of shots he wants, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is I think this falls on the writer.
Well, how many episodes of Magnum has this? Did he write the ugliest dog in Hawaii too?
No, he wrote 12 episodes of Magnum. This is the first one we're seeing.
Oh God, they invited him back after this for 11 more. When's the next one?
2 episodes from now.
Piss.
Well, we'll find out.
Maybe this is just an aberration. Maybe the other 11 are fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
So they kiss, but it's broken immediately
Thank
by
God.
a sound from outside.
My relief.
As the 3 cowboys are setting fire to one of the other barns.
But it's not the barn that Norman's in.
No, it's a different barn. Magnum runs out there with a gun.
Adelaide points out it's the barn that their biggest competitor's actually staying in.
There's like a brief exchange of gunfire, and then the guys run away, and the fire is put out, and everything is fine, and nothing is wrong.
And yeah, Magnum thought it would be a diversion, but nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing happens.
Here's my problem with this scene. These people are competent enough to come to the ranch and find Norman because Cartwright has other horses on his ranch, right? Figure out which one is Norman and all of that stuff before. And now they're setting fire to the wrong pile of hay bales outside, like the wrong wing of the area where all the competitors' horses are kept. That's weird. You'd think they'd be better than that.
It's real strange. The next morning finds Magnum in Norman's stable, just sort of hanging around. And Rick and TC show up.
Yeah, Rick and TC can find Norman. Why can't these chuckle fucks?
Rick and TC show up dressed like they're ready for a day at Glorious Goodwood, like the British.
Yeah, this is
races.
British racing attire.
They are.
This is Ascot.
They looked it up. They are wearing like gray tuxedos with vests. Not tuxedos. They're wearing gray 3-piece suits with like cravats and red carnations. And
they look
top
great,
hats.
actually. TC looks fantastic.
They look really good. TC is also talking like this for the purposes of this scene. It's really weird.
I think it's funny.
So they go over to the box. Magnum sends them over there.
It's weird that they're dressed identically.
It is weird. And then Magnum runs into Higgins.
What?
Magnum's like, why are you here? Higgins actually has 2 women with him. The friend of Robin Masters and her daughter. And they wanted to see the horse races. And Higgins, of course, as we said, no fan of horse races. Much prefers polo he says with the line, thrill of a rugged chucker.
That sounds dirty.
It does, doesn't it?
Maybe that's why Higgins is never married.
And this bugs me more than I think most of the characterizations.
What? No acknowledgement for rugged chuckers.
No.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying
rugged chuckers. Maybe Higgins is into it. That's totally cool. My biggest character complaint from this episode is Magnum explains why he's there, and even Higgins laughs at him for guarding a horse. And I would have expected Higgins, of all characters on this show, to be like, well, quite right. A thoroughbred horse could be worth upwards of blah, 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 blah.
Well,
that's what I expect from Higgins.
Well, and especially when Magnum goes to Higgins later and asks him for information about, like, horse insurance. That happens later. Why would Higgins not immediately grok to the fact this is probably a freaking thoroughbred?
Yeah. And he laughs in Magnum's face. I don't get why from Higgins. It's very strange. Also, unrelated, the orchestra is playing the Liberty Bell March, a.k.a. the theme song to Monty Python's Flying Circus, and it's just sort of funny.
Yeah,
that has no bearing on the episode, but I was like, haha.
I don't know if that's traditional at horse things.
Horse things.
Well, there's a whole variety of equestrian events. That might be when they play the horse song for the horse. Anyhow.
Higgins sees that TC and Rick are in Robin Masters' private box and heads over there to deal with it. Adelaide comes up to Magnum and is nervous, and Magnum convinces her to get on the horse and race or show jump or whatever like the wind, because otherwise the terrorists win, and sends her on her way.
George W. Bush actually plagiarized this speech. 2002.
TC and Rick come back from the box. Higgins has kicked them out. They're all pissy at Magnum. Magnum's like, well, as long as you're here, you can help me on the horse. And
they get real mad.
They get very upset with Magnum.
Magnum apologizes, and then they decide that they want to be good friends, and they do help him out after all.
In exchange for Magnum paying TC for gas money and Rick for his bar tab.
I don't think either of those are happening, but it's a nice promise.
Yeah, it's nice to make false promises. And then we get the actual show jumping scene,
which is quite long. They show like 3 horses doing it, don't they?
Yeah, you see Magnum and Rick and TC sort of walking around the place, keeping an eye out for any doings transpiring. And we see 3 horses, and we hear the announcer, and he talks about the record that they have to make it in. And the one horse gets under it, and then the other horse gets not quite there, and then Norman's
the other horse that goes over it is actually the previous favorite to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole scene is played without music.
Yeah, it's weird. It's also clearly shot separately from the shots of the people watching.
Yeah.
You never see the horse jumping set up with the horses jumping in the same shots as people sitting in the bleachers or the private boxes watching it. Even if it's the same location, it's clearly 2 very different days, which is not super surprising, but it's noticeable to me as like a very clear, like, this is how the movies have to be made kind of awkward setup.
Yeah, there's no wide shot where you see like a horse run past, the box where Higgins is sitting or anything.
I found this scene not that exciting.
I mean, maybe I was awed by the physical majesty of the horsies.
Yeah, because you mentioned you found it more tense.
Yeah, because there's no music and you're waiting for something shitty to happen to somebody. And so there's no music, so you don't have any cues from the TV show about what's going to happen. So you're just sitting there waiting like you would in real life.
Yeah, but the problem is that because everything that we've seen so far has been without consequence, it felt very much to me like there was nothing on the line, like that there actually was no danger. And so this, 7-minute sequence of...
It's not 7 minutes. It was like a minute and a half.
I mean, however long it felt longer. However long the sequence is, didn't have any tension for me. And in fact, was just sort of like, well, we're watching horse jumping now.
I don't know. Maybe it's like something I've learned, but I feel that when like music cuts out of television shows...
No, I agree with you. I think
that's like an eyebrow-raising moment.
I think that was smart. But I think they were going for what you said. I think they were trying to be like, "Ooh, what could happen? It'll be really tense. We'll show the whole thing, and anything could happen anytime." But because of what had been established prior, which is basically nothing bad is happening, and we don't know who is doing it or why, and there's no reason to believe that anything will happen, and then nothing happens. By the way,
yeah, spoiler.
Then it's like,
spoiler. Norman has a great time and wins the contest.
Norman wins, and it's like, oh. That was great.
Yeah. How long is that scene, by the way, Graham?
It's about 3.5 minutes. So then Higgins presents the award and a check for $5,000 to Captain Carthart, Blartfart.
Captain Malblart, Malcop.
Yeah. And then they're like, well, this is great. Now we can sell Norman to the buyer and everything will be fine.
And that's exactly what they do. But Magnum is careful and clever, and so before the buyer shows up, he uses the payphone of the stable to call the lawyer, because there's a lawyer handling the transaction, call the lawyer's office, ask for a description of the lawyer
from his secretary, who describes him as a middle-aged man, such and such height, brown hair, big curly mustache, horn-rimmed glasses.
Yeah.
It should be mentioned, her uncle, Captain Carthart, is not here right now because he had to go and deposit the winnings check. But he set all this up and his lawyer's taking care of it.
I mean, it's kind of weird that it couldn't wait 20 minutes.
It's a little weird.
Because, like, he leaves and, like, immediately this happens. Like, I feel like this could wait till, after this big, important $250,000 sale. And
Magnum even, like, double blind checks. He's like, oh, good, you match the description that your receptionist, Ms. York, told me. And he's like, my receptionist's name is Ms. Nixon. And Magnum's like, ha.
Yeah, like, no. Like, and then, like, checks make sure the paperwork's all in order, looks at everything, all of that stuff, right?
And it's all fine. And so they make the sale and go inside and everything's normal. And Captain Carthart's in there in the restaurant and they sit down and they order some drinks, but not champagne because, of course, I don't drink, Mr. Magnum, but I thought that you might like some apple cider because at least it would be fizzy and give you the same sort of thing that...
And it's the same color as champagne. And, like, it just goes on.
Adelaide's really keen that Magnum gets the experience of champagne without the alcohol because she doesn't drink, and it's a whole thing.
I do like the Martinelli sparkling apple juice though, which is I think what she's ordered. It's delicious.
It's nice. And then who shows up at the restaurant but Captain Carthart's actual lawyer,
who looks very, very similar to the guy who showed up,
but is not, and they've sold the horse to someone. They don't know who.
Question mark? Like this,
they got away with it.
This whole horse transaction scene is long, and I was just like, there's something wrong here, but I don't know what it is. Like, it's playing out very like awkwardly and like is overly detailed on camera.
Yeah, and there's like a weird sketchy guy taking pictures, and he's like, hey, let's have a photo of you guys together. Come on, here, pose up with the horse. Which the photo then ends up on the front page of the paper with like, private investigator aids in horse kidnapping. Which is like, what? This is weird. This makes no sense.
Yeah, what? How?
I was waiting for the guy with the camera to like fire a tranq dart out of the camera and
or
take Magnum out.
Have a gun or something.
Anything of excitement.
Yeah, but it plays out totally normally. And then Higgins is laughing at Magnum. And then Magnum is mad at Higgins. Now we're back at Robin's nest. And Magnum agrees to obey all the rules of the house for 2 weeks if Higgins will just answer him a single freaking question.
On horse insurance, which Higgins knows because Polo.
I guess, yeah. And so Magnum is like, what kind of clauses are like in a horse insurance contract? Because something is not adding up here. What is going on? Like, Magnum is convinced there's something wrong. We're convinced there's something wrong. But what is the point of all this? Why bother threatening Norman if you're just going to steal him? Wouldn't that make him worse?
That makes zero sense.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
It's also never adequately explained. But Higgins says sterility is one reason why horse insurance would be nullified. And basically, what Magnum puts together is that Norman is sterile, that Captain Carthart knew this, and forged the medical documents to say that he was fertile so that he could fake a horse napping and claim insurance on the horse for being stolen, because
and then
otherwise
the insurance value is, of course, now the value of the horse, which is $250,000.
Because otherwise he would sell it and they would find out that he was sterile,
and they wouldn't get any money, and
they would sue Captain Carthart back for the $250,000.
At this point, I went, oh, of course.
What a dumb...
And of course, one of the side effects of steroids, which I didn't mention in my extremely long list from earlier, can be sterility.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-bum.
Let me read you an excerpt from forums.steroid.com. This is a forum for steroid-using bodybuilders. And this is a thread from 2010.
Wow.
Steroids make you sterile? ? Hello. I have been trying to find info on this stuff making you sterile. So far, what I found is unlikely if you cycle the stuff instead of staying on it for prolonged periods. After a cycle, your sperm count is down, but as your body's function comes back, your sperm count should come back too. Is this accurate? Anyone on here becomes sterile? Anybody know of other articles? I am 28 and don't have kids yet. I would like them one day, but not for another 5 to 10 years. Thanks for any info. So this forum post being about 5 years old, maybe this guy did have kids. Maybe he got off the roids. Anyhow, here's the deal. Steroids, of course, can mimic the production of testosterone. And of course, testosterone is what tells a man's body to produce sperm when he gets into puberty and stuff like that. So if you have too many steroids, your body can basically get the shutoff notice saying, you know what, I have so much testosterone and stuff going on right now, I don't need to make any more sperm. And if you take steroids for too long, you can in fact become sterile. But that's a pretty low risk. And most studies have shown that about 99% of men that take a lot of steroids fully recover their fertility levels within about 1.5 to 2 years. So there you go, dudes. If you want to take birth control into your own hands and you don't mind an entire raft of side effects, try steroids, because they'll make you infertile. Presumably, they've been knocking Norman up on steroids for years. So his nuts are probably withered like raisins.
That doesn't make the story any better presented.
No, because this all comes out in one sort of info dump towards the end of the episode when they're like, shit, we forgot to set up why any of this would possibly be happening.
Magnum asks Higgins a question. Higgins is like, well, sterility. And Magnum's like, oh, now I understand everything perfectly.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
This whole episode has felt like nothing was at stake the whole time. And then it's like, oh, we figured it out. Now we have to find horse.
And the horse is...
It can't have left the island because the police had roadblocks up.
Because the police understand that a $250,000 horse is important, even if Rick and TC don't.
So where could you hide a horse where no one would think to look? Literally where you stole it from.
I mean, that's actually might be the cleverest thing in the episode.
It is. They go back to the stables of the racetrack, and there's Norman in one of the stables. They've dyed his blaze, which is the marking on the nose, and there's Norman, and he's fine. And then Captain Carthart and his 3 cowboy goons show up like a friggin' 1960s Batman villain. Captain Cowboy.
Now the plan is that they are actually going to kill Norman. Because unless Norman is dead, he doesn't get the insurance money. And Adelaide's like, no, you'll have to kill me first. And suddenly, despite the fact that he's been a cold, mean dude and has not been afraid to, like, have people set a fire that could kill people and, like, get his niece kidnapped and then thrown off a horse... And suddenly he's like, no, I don't want to kill you, and like runs off. Norman gets out of the stable, and Magnum has a fist fight with the 3 cowboys.
During the fist fight, Magnum tells Adelaide to get his gun. She does so. She holds up the cowboys and says, hold still or I'll blow you to glory.
And then Magnum's like, she'll do it too. Her dad taught her how to shoot. And then she goes, my dad did teach me how to shoot. She's like Moss. She's a Lady Moss.
Magnum takes the safety off her gun and then runs outside after Captain Carthart and Norman. And he finds that Norman caught up with Captain Carthart first and has trampled him to death.
Problem solved. Norman, despite the fact that he is like super agitated and probably hopped up on the horse roids, is like, okay, hi. When Magnum shows up,
Magnum's like, hey, buddy, it's not your fault. Come on.
and the horse is like, I don't have any conception of like moral problems and murder because I'm a horse. But okay, oh, sugar.
And then we cut back to the finals of the beach volleyball.
Wait, before we do that, that ending is so, like, Magnum does not waste time wrapping up things that you conceivably don't need to have shown on TV. Like, people don't need to be shown getting arrested and going to jail. But they just have this guy trampled by a horse and that's the end of it?
What I like is that in the scene prior with Higgins, they mention that Magnum was questioned by the cops for 6 hours about the disappearance of this horse. They close that thread. But this, trampled to death by the horse. Yep. What happened? The cops show up. Adelaide's got 3 cowboys at gunpoint. There's Magnum and Adelaide and a dead guy. That's more than an evening's investigation.
Is this a murder without... Well, I guess it's not a murder without consequences.
No,
because
Magnum
horses have
didn't do
no
it.
concept of murder.
Well, except for the judge presiding over horse court.
Yeah, but that's a special case. Anyhow, back to the King K Club.
It's the finals of volleyball. Higgins is there and Magnum and TC are there and they're just about to go for match point when Adelaide shows up and says, what?
Oh, she's going on about how she can't pay Magnum the whole fee because, you know, she's going to give him $350, but now they don't get any money and they don't get the money from the sale, and most of the prize money got eaten up with like horse fees, and now she's got to take Norman back to Iowa and there's horse stuff to pay for, and so here's $100.
She gives him, it's like $150 with an IOU for the other 200 or something. And he's like, well, what's my guarantee on that $200? And she's like, well, how about we make out? And he's like,
There's a lot of tongue action going on.
They get a round of applause afterwards, don't they?
This actually strikes me as completely unusual given Adelaide's personality. And now I'm like, I would say like a cool emotioned kind of person towards other people. I can be analytical and a little detached and stuff like that, much like I think the way they're trying to play Adelaide, but I think she's to a much higher extent than me. I cannot think of anything I would like less than to French kiss somebody in front of a bunch of strangers. I don't think that this would be her bag at all.
Yeah. But now she's got all confident. Her hair's,
Oh, yeah.
her hair's feathered.
She's got no glasses on either.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, so she's suddenly attractive, except, you know...
Still kind of plain.
Well, I mean, she's, like I said, the styling is quite dowdy for the character. The actress is, you know, an attractive actress, as they always are.
And then she leaves and Magnum scores the winning point, and Higgins is upset.
The end.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Magnum doesn't even look at the camera.
No, there's no looks at the camera through the whole episode, which was not a great episode.
No, I think we might be making it sound better than it is just
Better.
because we sort of, well, we put everything together and we're like, and then this happens and then this happens. The whole episode is just like plotting bits and like slow pacing choices, which I believe are designed to increase tension, and then like some sort of like random info dump at the end that doesn't seem to come out of anywhere, right?
It would be hard for me to explain exactly why without going back to watch the episode again, which I don't want to do. But it's weird how the episode never felt like anything was at stake.
Yeah. And then Captain Cathart is like supposed to be the bad guy, but he's like, it's explained that he's always been a cranky guy. So when you meet him and he's cranky, you're like, okay. And he doesn't seem to be particularly menacing otherwise.
Also, the actual like plot, not the plot of the story, but his plot, his scheme is very convoluted.
It's like, and it seems like it would be expensive to pull off, right?
Yeah.
Like, why you got to bring these 3 other people into it and do all this expensive stuff?
I don't understand why they didn't just kill the horse.
Well, because they had to kill him after he won, so he'd be worth $250,000.
They had ample opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
They definitely could have done that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they found him alive at the end. He should have already been dead.
Yeah, to be fair.
I mean, I guess they wanted to make it a happy ending so Adelaide wouldn't be devastated that Norman was dead.
I guess. Which I'm fine with, but it still makes no sense. I give this episode a score that's not good. I don't actually score the episodes.
Wait, well, what did you want to give it? Like a 3?
No, I don't know. What do you want to give it?
I don't know, like a 3?
I'm down with it.
Okay, 3
Wow,
it is.
really? So it's worse than The Ugliest Dog in Hawaii.
Well, The Ugliest Dog in Hawaii, even though it had some poor acting choices, did not have structural problems.
Yeah, I was just sort of bored by this episode.
Yeah, alternately bored and cringing.
Yeah, that was...
Which is not a good thing to be going back and forth between.
No.
I don't know. What's coming up next, Graham?
Next episode is called Don't Say Goodbye.
Oh, that sounds... I mean, it could be better. Wait, what's this rated on Magnum Mania? Because Adelaide is rated like a 7.7, which is an incredibly low rating for that site because they love everything Magnum. I mean, to be fair, it is maintained by Magnum fans.
This one is rated an 8.
Oh God, it might be bad. It could be terrible. Actually, it's their ratings are probably completely irrelevant to my taste.
I imagine that to be the case.
Like, I would rate every Boards of Canada song at least a 7 out of 10. And I think a lot of other people would be like, no, that song ain't good. And I'd be like, you shut your mouth.
But that is it for the Magnum Rewatch podcast this week. Our ability to do this podcast is brought to you by you, our listeners, at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, who support our Patreon for this and all of our other content. And we hugely appreciate it. And thank you so much. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or on your own RSS feed or on YouTube or however you choose to ingest this podcast, please tell your friends, because we think that they'd probably like it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Zeus, Apollo, take the week off.
All right. Sign off this week. Mucus rewatch. Voted down.
Yeah.
I'm no longer sick, so it does seem less appropriate.
Yeah, I'm not down with mucus rewatch anymore.
So how about 20 things that steroids will screw up with your body? Like you said, it seems like there could be a long list. A whole spin-off podcast.
Our first episode next week will be on hair growth.
Oh yeah, well it can cause all sorts of
where there wasn't hair before.
Or cause you to lose hair.
Where there was hair before.
There are some hair side effects to steroids, so there you go.
So look forward to that next week on Steroid Rewatch.
I know you're just spitballing, but you're actually right.
Spitballs, that's another side effect of steroids.
That's not right.
That's week 2.
That's not true.
Things that aren't true. It's week 3.
Makes you a compulsive liar.
Everything is a side effect of steroids.